Hello, everybody. Eric here with a weekly wrap up for November 24th through November 30th. This one's going to be a little odd, and you'll find out why in just a moment. First of all, what I posted on my channel, the two book reviews were Shaft on Monday, Deliverance on Friday. Wednesday was a Reading Remembrances. It was December of 2004, the end of a year, and I just finished recording my video for January of 2005. Big changes coming with the Reading Remembrances. Now, I didn't really read anything during the entire week. The last weekly wrap up, I talked about how I had started Red Sonja, Consumed by Gail Simone. There's the non-dust jacketed book, and you can see this is the top, not very far. And there's a reason for that. We had visitors here at the house. So, on Saturday, I don't know if I mentioned this in the last weekly wrap up, but on November, I did say this was November 24th through the 30th, right? November 23rd, my sister, brother-in-law, and nephew were supposed to come up from Alabama, but my nephew got sick. So they postponed for a day. So they drove up on Sunday. They got here late Sunday night. Everything's fine and dandy so far. Played some games with the people that were here. Read a tiny bit. But they got here late Sunday night. So I chatted with them a little bit. Monday, my sister was sick. So I hung out with my brother-in-law, my nephew, everybody else in the house. Played some games. My brother-in-law and I went to Recess, our friendly local game store, and Half Price Books. And then Tuesday, people were feeling better, but I'm hanging out with everybody. Played more games. Wednesday was my birthday, November 27th. My mother, stepfather, brother-in-law, and other sister all sick. So I did get my birthday pizza that I wanted. That's all I wanted for my birthday was some pizza. But other than that, not much went on. That's when I did a little bit of reading and watched some TV. There was Mystery Science Theater 3000 always has a Turkey Day marathon, and even though they're always doing live stuff, live showings, basically they're streaming their stuff on YouTube. They had a countdown to Turkey Day and then the Turkey Day marathon for the whole weekend, so I was watching a lot of that. And we did play, my sister, my mother, who felt well enough, we did play a little bit. And then Thursday, Thanksgiving, played some more games. Those people that were well enough, a couple people were still under the weather. And then I felt unwell. Now, I don't know how to say this. I don't want to gross anybody out. The thing that everybody else, 6 out of 7 people in this house at the time, had was causing lots of trips to the bathroom for various reasons. I just had chills and aching. I was aching and I had chills. So I didn't even eat Thanksgiving dinner. I ended up going to bed. And just to give you an idea, typically when I go to bed, I don't even use a blanket. I'm just laying out on top of the bed. Sometimes, if it's really, really cold out, I have a thin blanket that I'll use. Tuck my feet into it. When I went to bed, skipping Thanksgiving dinner, going to bed, I had 4 blankets on, 2 of the heaviest blankets I have, because I was just freezing. And then I'd wake up after a few hours and I'd be burning up. So I'd throw all the blankets off, go back to sleep. I'd wake up again later, freezing, pull all the blankets back on. But not once did I have to rush to the bathroom for anything. So that was my Thursday, and most of my Friday was just sleeping, staying in bed, putting blankets on, throwing them off. And then my sister, brother in law, and nephew were going to leave Saturday morning, but they realized that the Michigan Ohio State game was in Columbus, and they would have been driving through the middle of that craziness. So they ended up leaving Saturday night to avoid, or Friday night, excuse me. They left Friday night so that they would miss that. They'd be past all that craziness um, when it started to happen on Saturday, and they're home. They 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 got home. Everybody's happy. Everybody's healthy, relatively speaking. But didn't get any reading done really. Just a little bit. Didn't finish a book because of all of that went on. But as I said, a lot of games were played, and I'm going to share a couple with you. A couple that I got, treated myself for my birthday. So one of the new games I got is Comic Hunters. And this is a card game where you're trying to build the best comic book collection based on criteria, sort of semi-random criteria that's going to change every game. The main reason I got this game, and we played it, I think it's very fun. There's different, you can go to a comic book shop, a flea market, a convention, or online auctioning. And you can, there's one stage, if you go to the comic book shop, you're drafting cards. If you go to the flea market, it's not quite an auction. I'm not sure what you'd call it, but you have a choice between putting more cards out or taking the cards that are there. The auction site is an auction, and the convention is this weird grid where you can take cards and move cards, and I'm not going to explain all of it. But anyway, the whole appeal of it, for me, hopefully you can see this, I sleeved these cards. Quality of the cards, not that great. So I actually sleeved them. I don't generally sleeve. But all of the cards are Marvel comic book covers. And it will tell you what it is. This is Amazing Spider-Man, Volume 1, number 39. That's what that looks like, from 1966. And you actually have 3 ages of comics. 3 is the Golden Age. So there's like Tales of Suspense. There's an old Doctor Strange. There's an old Thor. So that's the Golden Age. And then, let me see. 3 ages. It should tell me what the ages are. I know it's Golden Age, Modern Age, Bronze Age. I don't know. It tells me somewhere. Anyway, number 2. Some of the not so great artwork and stuff. But there's a Captain America. Oh, God. Rob Liefeld, Captain America. Yeesh. Spider-Man. An older Avengers, though. I don't know why that's 1999. Just looks like an old Avengers. Let's see. Oh, now there's a good Captain America. That's Mark Waid and Ron Garney doing that issue. I have that. There's, Todd McFarlane Spider-Man. And then the Modern Age. Just some examples. There's Doctor Strange. Let's find something that's not Doctor Strange. There's Avengers. With MODOK on the cover. Oh, there's a Captain America with Winter Soldier. There's another Doctor Strange. Oh, there's a Spider-Man family. Anyway, yeah, so the whole reason I got this game, it looked interesting. It had great reviews. It was originally only available in Brazil. The first batch of reviews I saw were for for when it was out in Brazil, and the reviewers were all like, hopefully this will come to the United States. They didn't know if it would have the Marvel stuff or if it would have to be something else, either generic comic books, or you could make it board games. It's just collecting something. But all the reviews for the game itself were very, very positive, and it looked interesting. And then it has all those Marvel covers, which I love. So I picked that up. We've played it once. I really enjoyed it. I also won, so that might make me biased. But Comic Hunters is a fun game, and it's not that expensive, but that's always relative. It depends on what you're into. Someone who's not into games might think $5 is too expensive. I think it was $25. The other game that I got, and I just got it today, it actually came out a week ago, essentially a week ago. My friendly local game store got it in, and it was sold out in like a day. So I had to basically put in a request. I put it on my wish list, and they sort of ordered it for me, and it came in. And this is Mistborn, the deck building game. There's the back. I'm not going to open this one up and show you a bunch of stuff. But this is based on the Brandon Sanderson Mistborn fantasy series. I have not read the books, and I have no interest in reading the books. But I love deck building games. It's my favorite game mechanic. And watched a bunch of reviews, and the gameplay for this looks really, really interesting. And from everything, I do know a bit about the Mistborn books, and from my knowledge, a little bit of knowledge of the books, and from the reviews I've seen, the theme is not just pasted on, it is very much a part of the game. So if you do know the Mistborn books, I'm going to throw some things out here about the game, and you're going to recognize some of this in the game. So in a regular deck building game, and I've talked about this before, you're building your deck out of cards that are usually in a market, making your deck stronger. You're playing your cards, you're buying more cards, you're doing things. In this particular game, one of the ways to win is by knocking your opponent's life down to 0. The other way to win, there are going to be 3 tracks, and if you hit the top of all 3 tracks, you automatically win. First person basically to hit all 3 wins. There's a third condition that seems nearly impossible, so I'm not even going to go into it. But the thing that differentiates this from other deck building games, as far as I know, there are some deck building games where you are required to play every card in your hand, like Clank. I think most deck building games allow you to simply play the cards you want to play, and you don't have to play all the cards in your hand. Usually you have to discard. If you don't play them, at the end of your turn, you still have to discard them. There's a few, or at least one, that lets you carry over. But either way, you're just playing the cards in your hand, doing what they say, building up your deck, etc. With Mistborn, in Mistborn, there are these medals. And the characters in the Mistborn books burn medals to do magic. Essentially, I'm making this incredibly simple. They burn medals to do magic. And I believe what they do is they come in a liquid form and they drink it, and then they burn it within their body to do magic. And they can do what they call flaring, which is basically burn it all for a powerful effect. So in this game, there are very, 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 very few cards that you can just play from your hand. Most of the cards require you to burn one of the medals to play it. So this card would require you to burn Is that this one? I'm trying to tell by the symbols. So you'd have to use this metal to burn this metal to play this card. And at the beginning of the game, you can only burn one metal per turn. There's a training track that you can move up, and eventually you'll get to a point where you can burn 2 metals per turn, 3, and then 4. There are other ways to play cards, because the cards actually have metal on the side, so you can use a card to play a card without actually burning one of these. But then, you can't play this card. And you can flare. So I'm only allowed to burn 1 metal at the beginning of the game. I'm only allowed to burn 1 metal. So say I burn that to play this card, but I really want to play this other card. I can flare a metal to play it, but then that metal stays flared. I can't use it again until I find a way to refresh it. And there are ways to do that. Again, not going to... This is already seeming super detailed, and it's not that detailed. But anyway... and so burning, flaring, I feel like I'm forgetting something, but yeah, I love this, the restrictions that the game places on you, because again, in most deck building games, DC deck building being my favorite, I've got my hand of cards, 5 cards, something might let me draw even more, so I could have a whole bunch of cards, I can play the ones I want. I don't have to play them all, but I can. If they're all good, I can play all my cards. And then buy new cards, do this, attack, do whatever I need to do. This one, I can only play the cards that I can afford to play. I have to be able to burn the metal to play it. But each person has a character. They're one of the characters from the stories. And they're going to have abilities that eventually unlock as you move up this training track. And so if I, like the character I had, if I burn a bronze to play this card, then it triggers this ability that my character has. Anytime I burn a bronze, for whatever reason, I trigger this ability that he has. And there are ally cards, which can be used. Some of them are defenders, but they'll usually have, if you've burned this. So if I can get a bunch of allies that are bronze based, I burn 1 bronze to play 1 card, but it can trigger a whole bunch of stuff. I really love it. We played it twice today. I won and I lost. And already, I don't think it's Cult of the New. It could be, but I've already said this is my number 2 deck building game. DC deck building still my number 1, but I really, really enjoy this. Even though I never read Mistborn, and don't plan on reading Mistborn. Not a Brandon Sanderson fan. I've read 1 book of his. It was fine. I got too much to read to get into something else that doesn't seem that interesting to me. I've read some of the samples on Amazon, but I really, really like this game. Hopefully, I'll get in all sorts of plays. We played 2 players, and as I said, you're attacking other players. One of the ways to win is to knock, in a 2-player game, just knock your opponent down to 0 health. If you're playing and plays up to 4, there's actually a targeting icon so that you can't bully somebody. Everybody can't go after one person to try to knock them out. You have to, after you've decided whether or not you're going to take out people's allies, because allies have life points and you can take them out, you have to hit the person with the target. And if that person takes damage, then they can give the target to whomever they want. If you are the person with the target, when you attack, your attack hits everybody. Full force. If I've generated 5 damage, all of my opponents are taking 5 damage if I have the target. I don't know if we'll ever get to play it with more than 2 people, because I don't have a dedicated gaming group or anything. But really, really fun. So basically, that's my weekly wrap up. A lot of sick people, a lot of game playing, a lot of watching Mystery Science Theater 3000, and eating my birthday pizza, and a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of reading. And I think that covers it. Um, my question for the video: have you read Mistborn? Does Mistborn sound like something that would interest you if you read fantasy? I know not. Some people are just like, I don't read fantasy at all. Have you read it? Does it sound interesting to you? Have you read any Brandon Sanderson? Let me know all of that in the comments below. As far as me, I read Steelheart, which is the first book in the Reckoners series, which is about superheroes or superpowered individuals. But essentially, it's a world where, if I remember correctly, when people gain superpowers, it relatively quickly drives them insane and they all become supervillains. There are no superheroes. It's sort of a young adult, because I believe it's a young adult series, but a young adult version of The Boys, where you have humans, regular people, trying to stop supervillains. So, not quite The Boys, because they're supposed to be superheroes. And I guess there are some superheroes, but they're not your, Justice League type superheroes. I mean, technically they are the Seven, but morally speaking. Anyway, so that's what I read. Steelheart, first of the Reckoners books, which I believe is a young adult series about superpowered individuals. I thought it was fine. Didn't blow me away. I didn't hate it. I never read any of the other books. It was fine. I enjoy reading fantasy, but I don't know. Having read some of the samples of Mistborn, none of them grabbed me. I made a comparison earlier today. I said that, and I could be completely wrong about this. Maybe I'm just being too mean. I said Brandon Sanderson is the James Patterson of the fantasy world. He's very prolific, and I think I could be wrong about this, again with just Steelheart as reference, but I think his writing is relatively simple. So very easy to read, very easy to digest. I could be wrong. Maybe his fantasy stuff is different than the Reckoners stuff. So if you've read any, please let me know. Or maybe you can convince me to at least read the first Mistborn book. So Brandon Sanderson, have you read any? Do you like it? Does it sound interesting to you? Let me know in the comments below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Don't know what would be spoiled since I didn't actually read anything or talk about any books. But comments are open for spoilers. Just post spoiler warning. We try to be polite here on my channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. All the usual YouTube stuff. And if you'd care to follow me on other social media, I'll have links for my Instagram and Bluesky in the description below. And that's all I've got for you this week. So until next week, read more books.